Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever it is in the world, and whatever time zone and time shifts you may be. I'm Eudaimonistic, joined today by Mercer. This is a link to the past randomizer league. Week 1, open defeat Ganon, top life from Reheated Leftovers, up 1-0 in the series against Feline Paralysis' Ursula4115. Mercer, how are you doing today?
Pretty good. Traveling through time at a mostly steady rate. Eager to see this. The league's kind of easing into it with these tournament standard settings before we get into some weird stuff in later weeks.
Well, we're certainly flying fast around this hot ball of plasma that we call the sun, and apparently there's like more daylight now. That's pretty interesting. Hopefully that will be enough for these two to see their work out there in the field. I had to make at least one pun about it.
You got to do what you got to do.
Well, this is an exciting matchup. Top Life coming off of the Reheated Leftovers win earlier in the week. And this is their last race of the week. And as mentioned, being an open defeat Ganon Seed 7-7 crystals, this should be a pretty standard fare for our runners, all things considered. So we'll get to see a little bit about whether these two have their conventional routing kind of sorted out.
Yeah, which isn't to say that, Rando can be an adventure in and of itself, even if you're using settings that you're pretty familiar with. So we'll see how this goes for them.
Well, in IRC, they should have started here just in about a minute or so, based on what we saw. So we will be getting underway here very shortly. Alrighty, and that'll be our start. So we get Uncle start with the Fire Rod, interestingly enough, for Top Life, and some arrows out of Sanctuary. I assume Top Life's going to head towards the escape.
I think that was a 5-6 crystal on Tower of Hera, normal crystals otherwise in the Light World. So not a bad layout to see early. I like seeing those Light World crystals.
Wow, Top Life kidding on the Blue Guard prize pack, a full magic decanter. I was probably hoping for 2 shots from the back of the Uncle section here. And we'll get full arrows off of the Tier 1 triple.
Yeah, with that full magic and the Fire Rod could do the front of escape now. That is one of the options for a starting weapon, in fact, in standard mode.
At this point, I'd be very surprised to see Top Life not follow this all the way. Has the rupees to buy bombs on the way to Kakariko as well in the next part, which is interesting.
Meanwhile, we get a check of the Lumberjack ledge. Just 10 arrows today. I don't think we'll be killing Aga 1 for that.
However, Dark World access could become elusive, and that might be a reason that we consider it. Well, Ursula heading into the woods will find first bombs, which is very convenient. That's pretty much what you need to do Kakariko. And of course, dropping down, we'll have a little bit of extra health to work with. Top Life has a very efficient escape to work with here with the Fire Rod. Unfortunately, not rewarded yet, just 10 more arrows.
And with that Fire Rod, the Dark Cross chest is also in logic, as there are torches lightable on the way to it.
Granted, they're not fun to get to, but you can do it. That is a V31 thing. So Top Life continues to burn his way through the escape. We'll get more dense item checks out of Ursula here.
Well, the hammer's a nice reward.
Yeah, that one just feels great. We're just a glove and a moon pearl away from having access to the Dark World just minutes into the race. And good on Ursula there to pick up the required rupees for Bottle Vendor, looking like a very efficient Kakariko overall.
Front of Escape not really paying off, however. Top Life not going to do Dark Cross at the moment. Just heading out.
This means that we should have a key, I believe, in the back of the escape, as well as 2 other items. Or maybe 3, I'm bad at counting.
We did see the map, so yeah, the small in the 4 remaining chests, there'll be 3 items in the small key.
It looks like Top Life will save a little bit of time currently in the routing by not checking the Lumberjack ledge. However, Ursula currently just ripping through all of Kakariko, finding a fetch quest as well with a mushroom, which we probably won't have a convenient way to check for a while. Well, as our town campaign continues, getting some rupees here in the tavern. Well, this is a kind of interesting position. Both of our runners have access to some really great weapons. I feel like we're pretty well equipped for this, the early combat of the seed, and that's a hook shot.
Yeah, we're going to need to find those boots at some point.
If nothing else, just for the satisfaction of being able to hook speed. But also because, yeah, we need them for dungeons and stuff. With over 300 rupees at her disposal, Ursula is going to actually go check the race game, and we'll be just jumping right through it to get the blue mail, which is a great find this early in the race.
It doubles your health against most damage sources, and at 4 hearts, that's a nice boost to safety.
And in the meantime, Top Life's going to take some time to clear out the rest of the leftovers here in the village. Ursula will give us a first look over in eastern area, it looks like. Which, interestingly enough, will delay the fire rod at this point.
Yeah, I was wondering for a moment if Ursula might be going... Okay, going straight for that mushroom.
That's an interesting choice. That may be reflecting a desire to chain in Zora with like a fake flipper later. Because we don't have the logical means of accessing it from this point. Well, this should certainly be a very early mushroom turn in then. 6.5 minutes into the race, we find
1/4 of a heart.
not quite that exciting, but it is information. Ursula will not be worrying about that later. Well, Top Life has considerably more cash to work with, about 100 extra rupees. Did he actually check Bottle Vendor? Yeah, we got those rupees from Escape.
Yeah. Does end up buying a bomb refill.
Yeah, it's not a very comfortable place to get rupees, but the back of Eastern has some to offer, I believe 80 something, so we could edge our way a little closer towards the Zora money that we're looking for. South Shore not having been checked, though, I'd feel pretty confident not bothering.
We do get information that Skullwoods is our green pendant today. Oh, and hello, Moonpearl. We're going to need that.
I think that's going to make Ursula's South Shore routing a lot stronger than most runners who would do the seed. I can't imagine Top Life goes Eastern Palace before, South Shore at this point only having a fire rod at disposal.
Yeah, barring like finding the flippers along South Shore or something, Top Life won't have as many options for getting into the waterfall cave.
We'll get the early Eastern Palace check here from Ursula, which we can do pretty much everything in sequence break if we want to do the dark rooms, but we will not be able to kill Armos.
Top
Well,
Life
yeah.
is heading south. Yeah, it's always possible there's some flavor of vanilla bow.
All right, well, here comes the dam checks for Top Life. We saw some junk in the front. The back of the check here will be a lamp, which is really nice before you head over to Eastern. The one thing that stinks, though, is that it doesn't save a ton of time unless you're going back to the boss. The first few rooms that are dark aren't that hard to deal with.
Yeah, it's just kind of a nice piece of convenience. Have the fire rod so it's not our fire source for lighting torches or anything. Going for bomb strats for Mini Moldorm Cave, I cannot blame Top Life. This is one of the worst rooms for using the hammer in the game.
Unfortunately, they are averse to explosives, and Top Life will actually use all available shots, being a little bit down on magic for the last shot. So we'll not have access to magic later, but sword, ice rod, health. Not sure we're going to need that magic for a little bit.
Yeah, and the first shield and sword, so you've got your uncle's starter kit there. Definitely worth it. And then you don't have to worry about the ice rod, although usually if the ice rod is this early, it ends up being in Turtle Rock anyway.
So by the looks of things, it seems like Ursula actually jumped out of there before heading to the dark room. So it looks like Ursula is going to prefer to follow in logic. Well, with a couple of deftly dodged crabs, Top Life will make it all the way to the Ice Rod Cave as we see Ursula doing the Uncle Chain, potentially escape as well to get a Master Sword here in Ice Rod Cave. Top Life really accelerating the sword count quickly.
Yeah, definitely not going to complain about having those.
Just gonna throw it out there. Once he finds a Moon Pearl, egging him to Dark World is a thing.
Yeah, and it's even in logic at that point. Just 10 arrows on Lake Hylia Island.
Well, this pass through, we will get to see more of Eastern Palace as Top Life has all of the means to check everything except for Armos itself. So we should get virtually everything from there. That could even be a bow behind that lamp, which would be really painful for Ursula, but not awful altogether. Just annoying more than anything.
Yeah, though we are actually running pretty low on locations to avoid AGA 1. No glove locks a lot of the light world. We haven't seen the vanilla big key chest in Eastern, the dark cross chest. If that's the small key, then we could see the back of escape as well. And then Agina, and I think that's it in logic.
Yeah, that sounds about right. So, I mean, unless we have a glove somewhere, it's looking very likely that we'll have to go through Aghanim. Well, Ursula, hammering away at what remains of the escape sequence, we'll have an option to consider a dark cross without the lamp, but instead we'll save and quit, kind of following the same expectation that we would have from that Eastern play, choosing not to break the logic here. Personally, I'm a big fan of that approach. Honestly, if you know what the seed expects from you because you haven't, gone out of the logic, then you have pretty consistent expectations of what you're going to see going forward.
That is true, but the flip side of that is sometimes you get to do things that the seed. You get to not do things the seed expects you to do, like AGA 1 by sequence breaking Dark World access.
That would be a particularly profitable sequence break in this seed so far. Sword Beam strats for Stalfos. Toplife wasting no time here in Eastern Palace. Gets his big key right before the vanilla big chest, which is really convenient. Probably the best place to find it. Well, as our runners cross over each other's checks and Toplife brings us into new territory, I want to thank everybody for tuning in at this extremely early hour of the morning. If you're in the North America time zones, daylight savings time came in today. Certainly a strange time for an early race, but we accommodate all hours of the world in this in this league and in tournaments. So pleasure to have the opportunity to be on mic with you, Mercer.
Yeah, you as well. I don't think there are bombs in here, and Ursula's out of them. Might not be able to get Master Sword out of the Ice Rod Cave.
That's the rough part is, if we had a glove, there would be a 50-50 bomb rock we could check. I don't know if, yeah, for a second there I thought Ursula was about to check the Hoarder Crab, but actually just heading up to buy bombs, it looks like, over towards Eastern. Oh, fake flipper setup.
Yeah, I think this is the one I had mentioned earlier to get to the mushroom turn in. A little bit of trouble with this whirlpool.
Circle in the drain. For those of you who aren't, as used to racing this game or haven't played a whole lot of it, it is actually very inconsistent when you're trying to reach a central point that you're swimming towards. If you swim slightly past it, it's pretty easy to continue to do so until you actually get into the whirlpool. That looked pretty standard for my fare, but...
Yeah, me too. It's also super easy to end up back in the teleporter you just left.
Right, because it preserves your momentum. And also another easy way to get killed from the fake flipper soft lock. So, interesting choice here from Toplife, going to actually preserve the mushroom through a safe scum, which is totally fine. But keeping that for fake powder, it looks like.
Yeah, but fake powder, and it actually makes the menuing a little easier. And this might be the Aga play. We'll see if Toplife does Dark Cross first. But if that comes up dry, I'm not going to check Vagina.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I mean, that is one location, but it would be very painful later if we found out that we could have skipped the entire Aghanim, or yeah, the entire Aghanim through Regina. That's a really strange thing to say.
Yeah, it's a pretty typical decision to have to make too. A lot of times, like Zora and Vagina are your last options for something for Dark World access. And just 5 rupees there. If that had been the key, could have gotten 3 more items out of the back, but no key, no glove, no backup escape.
Yeah, and that death warp out of Toplife is definitely a symbol that we're heading towards the castle tower. So Top Life will be the first one into the tower to try and get to the Dark World, and by all measures, it looks like we'll have a healthy advantage getting there.
Meanwhile, Ursula is actually in worse shape, having not had that bomb for Ice Rod Cave, only has isolated checks left, cannot do Aga yet.
Or at least that wouldn't be a very obvious sounding play. Alright, well, Ursula getting very friendly RNG. So is Top Life, actually, having not alerted any guards here in the Dark Maze, which is exactly where you want to be. If you can get all the way to the door here without clinking, you might just get hassled by one and not have to deal with a ton of really angry blue guards. Minor mishaps with Stalfos aside, Ursula tearing through the Eastern Palace segment here on the re-return. We'll not have the bow to work with for finishing this, so this will be a triple dip currently.
Top Life going to need to be a little cautious here, down to 2 hearts. You don't want to take a death on the tower climb.
Now, of all the locations that you can die in this game, this is one of the more punishing, just for the sake that you get spit back out of the entrance. Ganon's Tower may be the only more punishing one.
There are a few hearts in this room, so should be able to get back up to a completely safe level.
Yep, there's the first one, then there's another one right next to this red guard. Looks like Top Life will skip that, but 3 hearts is a decently comfortable place for Aghanim, provided you don't take more damage on the way up.
Yeah, it's mostly at 2 hearts. Those pit rooms are kind of a little scary.
Personally, I fear the red guards more often than not, but having made it all the way through Circle of Pots, pretty comfy place to be. So unless we get like 10 blue balls, Top Life should be in good shape here.
Well, those are seated, so assuming that there's not a way to get past doing the saga.
Well, not quite a game that we regularly play in every single seed, but if you care to try and guess how many blue balls we'll see out of Aghanim, 3's about average.
I have a standing guess of 15 until it happens on stream.
You know, it's happened to folks before. Twice even.
I believe it's happened to the same person twice, but I wasn't commentating either of those.
Yeah, Rip Scrivo, that guy. You're almost lucky at that point. Well, that is 2 already on the board in the first cycle. Yikes. However, unless Top Life misses a shot, 15 is dead. For those of you who aren't familiar with the Aghanim fight or don't know how it kind of works, it's a 5 attack cycle, so the first attack will always be a reflectable energy ball. 2 through 4 in the cycle have a 50-50 chance of being one of those blue ball attacks, which you can do nothing with. And attack 5 from the top center of the room will always be a lightning attack that you can do nothing with. And then the whole thing cycles.
Agina has another sword, so Ursula gets Master Sword from there, and this is the one in Ice Rod Cave.
Well, a boon and a bane, really. I mean, that will put Ursula into the realm of going to Aghanim by logic, but that's very likely a sword that she'll miss in Ice Rod Cave later.
Also, the Cane of Samaria just chilling on Pyramid Ledge.
Now, while we don't have the means to use that, the information and the knowledge of having that immediately following Aghanim is an interesting proposition for anyone. Looks like Top Life's going to do the Hype Cave start after the Pyramid, which will, I guess, probably lead him back north. I'm not sure where you go from there. You could continue west, but not having Titan's Myths or even any lift upgrades makes it pretty hard to continue.
Yeah, Top Life does actually have one use for that. That does enable the fake powder glitch.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
Ursula actually burned the mushroom, did not do that reset, so will not have that option. Well, we're in commentator butter mode, and there's one of our gloves for, normal Dark World access.
That's ultimately the important thing found here. We're missing a lot of components of overworld traversal here in the Dark World. Looks like Top Life either wants a bomb refill, fair enough, and maybe even the knowledge of 5-6, but we'll actually opt to just get the bomb refill and then map check. Looking like Ice Palace was our other 5-6 crystal. I saw a swamp and Skull Woods. I didn't see the third one for pendant.
Thieves Town, because of course.
Because of course, better words I could not have said. Looking like Ursula's in a similarly scary position here in the castle tower with just a heart remaining. We'll have some opportunities to refill as we discussed before. Still kind of a tense moment. Alright, so this should be the last thing that Top Life can do in this chain. We'll either save and quit out of this, or we'll probably save and quit out of this, I imagine.
Yeah, and with Swamp being a pendant, there are some really awful possibilities for where the boots are to get that hook shot that's on library.
Yep, I'm reading your mind and I'm not liking what I'm seeing. Normally that wouldn't be the case, but it sounds pretty diabolical to me. Ooh. Dirty bowstring. Alright, well, Top Life finding a projectile armament underneath the dirt after a healthy portion of digging. That is the means to finish up Eastern Palace, but we have no interest in doing that right away, having access to the Dark World. However, it's not like we have a ton of options of where to go, but this does mean that Palace of Darkness is a much more palatable choice.
Yeah, Pod is kind of the play here, and it looks like that's where Top Life is heading.
I think this is really interesting routing decisions. Top Life had the means to at least look at Palace of Darkness before, but this decision to delay it slightly by going west first will actually end up being a really great choice for clearing the dungeon, as I believe that's everything Top Life needs for it.
Yeah, it should be good. I think it is pretty common to do at least Hype Cave first in hopes of finding the bow there.
Well, with some health refills to work with, Ursula should have a pretty safe fight here. We saw, actually, I didn't actually count how many blue balls we had. I think it was like 5 or something like that, but should be a pretty straightforward fight for Ursula as Top Life enters Palace of Darkness for the first time here, about 27 minutes in. And so I gotta think like the nicest thing you can find in this first chest would be the mirror, right?
Yeah, probably. That's makes Palace of Darkness routing a lot nicer. The compass is not it. Definitely happy to not have come here.
Yeah, so I mean, if Ursula ends up heading to Palace of Darkness first, this will end up being a net time save for Top Life again. Bowlock Dungeon taking a Death Warp to refill on hearts. Top Life going to continue on to the right half of the dungeon. which will have 2 items for us. With hammer, we'll be able to access everything else. Without the boots, it's a little less fun to do this dungeon as well, as there's a couple of routing optimizations that you kind of want to have if you don't have the mirror. Could be one of those scenarios where Toplife really wants to preserve keys, so we'll see how the layout works out this dungeon.
Yeah, it is possible that we just never see the mirror with Swamp being a pendant. So I wouldn't put off Pod for that. Oh good, we've already got the compass and map out of the way.
So keys, key items, and yeah, items left. That's pretty much it.
And keys. There are a lot of keys in here.
So many keys, you think they'd just make, link a chain at this point. Just put them all in a ring.
And Ursula heading into Pod. We'll see if they do any kind of glitch or anything to get past the mimics, but I don't think they have a potion, so...
Yeah, for lack of a bottle, and we don't have boots, so isn't there a way to do it with just pause buffering?
Yeah, there's a mimic clip, but it's truthfully slow enough that it's probably not worth doing unless you're very good at it. Given that Ursula wasn't doing dark rooms earlier and was staying in that kind of logic, I would have been actually really surprised to see that.
Yeah, same here. I mean, like, that's, as you mentioned, it's a very time-costly thing to do. Alright, well, that will be Ursula's opportunity to go check Hype Cave.
Yeah, but they're going to have to use the portal at the palace. Doesn't have the glove out of Hype Cave yet.
Oh, yeah, that's rough. Well, small opportunity for some swag here from Toplife. Going to actually preserve a small key and also save some time to get to the big chest here with a hammer jump attempt. The lineup looked a little iffy at first, but if we can get on the right pixel y-axis wise, Toplife should be able to fall into the pit, actually.
Yeah, I don't know how much I love the dedication to this jump when you're not playing Key Sanity.
Yeah, I certainly find it less valuable when you already have 2 small keys to work with at this point. Well, on attempt number 3, we'll pull it off. Toplife heading into the dark maze as Ursula picking up the glove that we needed. We'll probably continue westwards to go grab that bow, seeing as she wasn't interested in doing a bowless pod.
And bow-locked bow in Pod. There's our silvers.
Because that totally never happens. I find the death warp here kind of interesting. Toplife did grab everything from the back, didn't he?
Did we see Toplife do the money corridor?
We saw the U-shaped room. I don't know about the harmless hellway, though. Oh, we'll find out here shortly. I believe we have all the dungeon items anyway. Yeah, so this should be a full clear then. We're good. All right, well, Ursula will need to polish off the bowstring there to make sure that we can fire away at Palace of Darkness to find, as you mentioned, a bow-locked bow. Running trend and a theme we've been seeing lately. Interestingly enough, there was a race yesterday that actually had the same scenario, just a different location in Palace of Darkness. So an easy pitfall. Fortunately for both of our runners, there was no good way to sequence break the dungeon to try and do it a little bit quicker. Alright, by the looks of things, Ursula's going to use the portal over by the 5 flute point to make her way into the Palace of Darkness to try and catch up the top life here, who has a bit of a, well, I'd say probably one dungeon lead at this point. Oh.
Looks like going to do Eastern first. Could drop down and do the portal after with no mirror.
Actually, without the mirror, I kind of like this play.
Yeah, you don't have the mirror. You have no promise of ever getting the mirror. So I like knocking these both out.
Top life not getting rewarded with the Palace of Darkness clear with a mirror, so we'll have a slightly more roundabout way to finish Eastern. May end up opting to do it after, say, getting the flute or something like that, but for all we know, that could be where it's at anyway.
Yeah, there is still one item in Eastern on our most nights that we haven't seen.
Well, just barely 35 minutes into the race, Top Life has taken the first strike as far as crystals go, on the board with Palace of Darkness.
And we're going to get our 2 items out of the back of the escape at this point. The small key will be the 3rd chest.
This seems like an easy location for people to forget, considering the sudden access to the world we just got. I believe that is our first bottle of the race.
Yeah, you're not going to complain about that. It unlocks one more item whenever you're back in Kakariko.
Well, you foreshadowed it earlier, the potential fake powder usage. Top Life pretty much burning down everything in Northern Hyrule, making sure that that location doesn't get missed. Meanwhile, our first look at the Armmost Knights, Ursula here, tearing through the dungeon very quickly, has set up for a bottom right fast kill, looks to have pretty much the entire setup here. And we'll find a Cane of Burna for her troubles, so both of them with a crystal on the board.
Yeah, that's Spike Cave access.
For those of you uninitiated, what Top Life's trying to do here is take advantage of the game saying, hey, you don't have enough magic, and then by switching to the mushroom, which shares the same slot as the powder, the game thinks you're using powder, which will be good enough for 5 rupees for Top Life. Maybe not exciting in the grand scheme of things, but application of niche knowledge, I like to see it.
Yeah, that could have been a big turning point. Ursula does not have the option to do big powder. If that had been a required item, would have had to find the actual powder somewhere. It looks like we're going to get some Village of Outcast area checks from Top Life. Skullwoods is full clearable, but it's also just a pendant, although it is the green pendant.
I think the fact that it's a green pendant makes it a little more tolerable, but it definitely changes the way that you would route it. I don't know if me personally I would want to kill Mothula first, but that is a way that a lot of people approach that dungeon. What about you, Mercer? I mean, does this change the calculations for you?
I'm actually a big fan of doing Thieves Town first in most circumstances. That's also a pendant, but I would probably do Village of Outcasts and Thieves Town first myself. But 3 items in Skullwoods makes it a little more tempting. Top Life going to be able to route in the green pendant very easily too. Still has to walk over to Eastern to clear it.
Well, it looks like routing through Skullwoods will be rewarded here, taking the entrance that allows Top Life to have a mirror point if we do find it, and to avoid a key lock. So we'll be able to continue on through the dungeon. Boots being found here.
So I would have gotten punished. Those boots are also the hook shot. They don't look like it, but you know they are.
You know, I hear dashing helps you pull ahead. Running gets you real attached? I don't know.
I mean, that also makes a Death Mountain play a lot more attractive.
Yeah, so the good news for Ursula here is that it's very unlikely that she would miss those boots. That's a very convenient place to find them. And we don't have much of a reason to just say, hey, no, I'm not going to go there ever. So we're not going to be locked out of that hook shot for very long, I don't think. Even if we end up, say, going south from the portal at Village of Outcasts, we would still have a good reason to head back up there before long.
Yeah, and that's enough for Top Life to not continue in Skullwoods at least.
Might not be a genie in the bottle, but that fairy will give Top Life an extra safety to work with. That's our second bottle, plus a red potion. So both of our runners will have some opportunity to kind of be a little riskier as they progress throughout the rest of the seed.
All right, Village of Safeties today, it appears.
I haven't seen so many safeties in Kakariko since like a 2-hour 30 energy run I did once. But Top Life leaving no stones unturned. We'll make sure to check everything else before heading into Thieves Town. I have to think at the bare minimum I'm going to check the first 4. Getting some similar unfortunate routing requirements out of Ursula that we saw from Top Life, but that will be the silver arrows for Ursula, which has got to be a breath of relief for any runner. Just knowing that, hey, I don't got to worry about where my opponent's going to be with this item equipped. This isn't a weird location. You kind of know what to expect. The unfortunate news for Ursula is that it's very inconvenient to get back to the entrance, so a somewhat slow death wart, but a Kodongo in the right place does make this a little bit more bearable.
And yeah, you have to think Top Life is going to grab this hook shot and head up the mountain. The whole Light World Death Mountain is accessible. If you find the mitts, then you get even more options.
Yeah, once you have the means to hit both sides of at least the light world, and you don't have a whole lot in front of you elsewhere, really the great time to be going. I mean, there's what 7 items in Paradox, one in Spiral. You've got all of Tower of Hera.
Yeah, I mean, they haven't gotten the Spectacle Rock inside or the Old Man one yet either.
So more than a few checks here.
Yep. And Bunk Rocks, I mean, consider that one.
We are another glove away from checking King's Tomb, but that will soon be in Logic if we find that. Those boots, really handy for clearing out overworld checks.
Yeah, the mirror would also bring King's Tomb into Logic. Top Life going to do the Lumberjack check. We know that it's just going to blind and get it, I guess. Congratulations. I guess we will see those 10 arrows picked up. I was wrong.
Well, it was a skip, but overall, this does save time over Ursula's check because those boots do make it a little faster to return from. In the meantime, a little bit of a turtle party, a siesta, if you will, for those of you who like stupid NMG inside jokes. That will bring Ursula all the way to the Helmasaur Kid fight. The first to have 2 crystals at this race, or at this point of the race. That is 17 smacks to the face with a hammer. An assortment of weapon opportunities for the second phase. Wouldn't be surprised to see Ursula maybe pull out the silver arrows because those are pretty lethal. But sword spins, slashes, or hammers would work. Top Life going to get powder from the old man, which might be a slightly frustrating place to find it.
Hey, it brings those 5 rupees back into Logic. He can consider himself to have the full 402 again.
I'll say, though, I think I prefer to have powder than not in any scenario.
Oh, I absolutely would too, but Top Life is a lot better at this game than I am.
Yeah, I know the feeling. But yeah, so powder being pretty much one of the best safeties in the game by any measure. That is crystal number 2 for Ursula. Has some options from here, but Top Life going to find the progression here in Paradox Cave. That is Quake, but much more importantly, Titan's Mitts.
Well, I mean, the Quake could be important. We'll find out. You can construct a medallion layout where we're now 2 items from go mode, I believe, with flute and then either book or mirror. If both Turtle Rock and Mire are Quake or now Ether.
Yeah, so odds on we're favored to not have to worry as much about medallions, but Bombos could still be there. I mean, now that we have the Titan's Mitts, Top Life does have the opportunity to check that, which is nice. Could be a case of key under the neighbor's doormat. And would be able to do Turtle Rock?
Yeah, we're favored pretty significantly at the moment to be able to full clear Turtle Rock.
I like this choice from Top Life here, except for the Dead Rock. This is a really convenient opportunity to do Hera when we don't have a mirror, and there would be no other convenient way of getting over there. If we found the mirror somewhere else in our checks, like in the Dark World, then this wouldn't be optimal, but not really a lot of great choices given the equipment. Well, there's a big key for Top Life. Could still attempt what we call a Herapod clip. We do have pretty much all the components necessary to do so. Without a small key, we'll actually end up heading up the tower naturally.
Yeah, with the big key, I like not doing the glitch unless you're very, very certain you will get it the first time.
It is pretty difficult to do. And with that, that'll take us to the Moldorm fight.
Yep, this should be pretty easy with the tempered sword. Gets one spin in. Oop, not quite on the other, but one spin, one slash, and Moldorm goes down. Up. And gets the red boomerang for the trouble. As a quick scout of the top of Spectacle Rock, can't get that item without the mirror, but it's just bombs. Gets dead rocked again. That one dead rock is being very annoying today. And heading over towards the dark side of Death Mountain. Meanwhile, we'll see if Ursula decides to do more of Thieves Town after the first four. Total Rock is Bombos. Okay, so not going to be able to do that full clear. Even if the Bombos medallion is here, we'll have to actually reclimb in order to open it. Barring the mirror also being here. There's our desert access, so Bombos and Flute away. Technically, the flippers are required for Ice Palace. I know for Top Life that is not true. He will quick flipper it if that's the only item he needs. Oh, but there's flippers. You know, so there's logical access to Ice Palace, and now it could have, you know, Bombos or Flute in it, and Top Life might be much more likely to go there. This might be the desert play. And Ursula is proceeding through Thieves Town.
Yeah, so we'll finally get to see the back half of Thieves Town, which we did not have an opportunity to before.
Yeah, also Top Life likely to get Butter Sword on the way out of Agina's Cave. That's the one that he doesn't have. Ursula doesn't have the one over in the Ice Rod Cave.
Well, all the means to make Desert completable. Top Life will absolutely be checking everything possible here. This is a crystal as well, so this will be another completion. Okay, and Ursula actually saving and quitting before blind, so that must have been all the items in Thieves Town.
Yeah, I wasn't tracking them super closely, so I assume that that's the case. I'm just gonna bet there's nothing on pedestal.
Which, I mean, I think is a pretty fair, reasonable, safe bet for most people in most situations.
Yeah, I mean, it could have either of our remaining items for Top Life to go mode, but it's not tremendously likely.
Speaking of Top Life, we are cruising here through Desert. We still haven't seen the boots pickup yet for Ursula, which is unfortunate. Ursula actually has avoided Skull Woods pretty much entirely, opposite of what I predicted.
Yeah, we'll probably see at least one item here that Top Life didn't do. Didn't see the inside of Spectacle Rock on Top Life's side. Might also do Spike Cave.
Yeah, this would be an appropriate time to be doing it. We have pretty much everything we need if we wanted to restore health. And magic too, if required.
Yeah, and Kana Burna is very safe for getting through there. It's more reliable than the Cape on that front.
Just a piece of heart in the Spectacle Rock Cave. Ursula not going to bother spending the time on that, and I agree with that choice. And as you mentioned, yeah, Spike Cave coming up next.
Yep, about to get a old man Molus fight from Top Life. We'll see what weapon he chooses for that. Silver arrows or fire rod are both popular options.
Having used a little bit more magic, probably going for one less menu overall, taking the silver arrows at the start. Looking like a perfect one cycle, though. So that piece of heart in Spike Cave, is that more time intensive than the Spectacle Rock one? Because, I mean, that's just it feels like a slap in the face to receive one after just seeing one.
Yeah, it is. And here's going to be Top Life's, Golden Sword of Destiny, or whatever the official title is.
You absolutely called it, Mercer. Top Life's fantasy owners might not be too pleased, but that is definitely a very powerful mode to be in for Top Life. As of course, we still don't know where our flute is, let alone what the Misery Mire medallion is. We're still not quite in completion mode, but Top Life really reducing down to the ridiculous. Not a lot left.
Yeah, this is probably Ice Palace. Might be Eastern.
So we'll still need Bombos medallion to get into Turtle Rock. It looks like, or was that a mismatch or a mismark?
No, that's correct. Top Life was not thrilled about it. I completely forgot that these flipper checks hadn't been done yet.
Yeah, it's become pretty common to see fake flipper usage, and we did see Top Life do that towards the Witch's Hut. 50 rupees here under the bridge, our hobo friend becoming a little bit poorer. Yeah, Top Life running out of places to check in regular overworld. We'll probably end up heading into ice, as you mentioned, since that does chain pretty nicely into the water checks. Starting to see some murmurs in chat about a potential Bombos on pedestal. You may want to hold your horses. We're not quite there yet.
Yeah, and you could also have the flute there. You might as well hold your, go for whichever.
Gonna have to pause the ponies on this one. We're not ejecting equestrians here.
And Waterfall Fairy has a whole bunch of nothing. So we'll see Ice Palace now. Gonna get to do it the full, clear, slow way.
Yeah, no runner really likes to be in this position, but at the same time, there's items here. You can do a lot of it. Well, all of it really, but just under an hour in, that will be Ursula's boots. A pretty hefty boots advantage so far for Top Life. What, about half an hour?
Probably not that much, but yeah, 25 minutes, something.
Big shout outs to our tracker today, also keeping track of some things that our runners haven't seen, thanks to Mystic for doing the tracking for us. Also mentioning that nobody has checked Zora or Catfish yet. Two things that we would like to pair together because of Mirror, which we absolutely can't yet.
Yeah, I would expect a Zora check after Ice if it comes up dry for Top Life. It's just way more annoying to get back from there.
All right, our blue Yoshi friend, who I have to say that's an excellent sprite. I am not biased when it comes to Yoshis or anything. I may represent a Yoshi-themed team. But first try bomb jump, looking pretty good here in Ice Palace. Does have several other bomb jumps you could do instead to try and traverse the dungeon in weird ways, but that's the big one that really matters if you're looking to optimally clear this dungeon. So we saw some deliberation from Ursula there about heading to the back of Skull Woods. Actually noped out of there pretty quickly. So as far as we know, that is the right play. We have not seen Mothula though yet, so that green pendant's still an enigma.
Yeah, there's still these two items that we need, so until they're found, it's hard to write that off. Our runners, particularly Top Life, who has more information about the seed at this point, do not want to see the mirror. They want the mirror to be sitting in GT somewhere, so that a lot of the worst options, like a full clear of Swamp or Pedestal, stay dead.
Top Life heading to the top of Ice Palace, basement floor 1 even, which is basically the highest floor that you can access besides the entrance. This will be Ursula's hookshot in the meantime, which will give Ursula many more options, presumably heading to the mountain, I would think.
Vanilla big key for Ice Palace.
Top Life will press onwards, doubling back to get to the big chest, it looks like, although taking a different route than what I expected.
Yeah, people have a much better Ice Palace routing than I do. I wouldn't have thought to go that way.
I like this decision, though. Gets you to Ice Tea very quickly. Makes it very convenient to head back towards the big chest. if you're trying to full clear everything, it's probably a more comfortable way to do it. The only downside is you have to do a bit of a weird bomb jump, but Top Life pulling it off with no issues whatsoever. I mean, that was about as smooth as it gets. In the meantime, Ursula's going to wrap up these East Death Mountain checks. Did we ever actually see Hookshot Cave from Top Life?
Yes, that's where the book was. We did not see Spiral Cave or the inside of Spectacle Rock, although Ursula showed that.
Yeah, so we will get some complete knowledge about the mountain at this point. In the meantime, Top Life will be going into the Cold Stare fight, just barely having enough natural magic to do it. It does have potions available, though. Well, Gold Sword, a very comfortable fight for Cold Stare, with some poke strats and a little bit of a slash or two towards the one that escaped. Top Life will emerge with another heart container and a crystal, but not much more.
Yeah, so not much directly within Ice Palace. Do still have 2 more items that were locked behind it in the Pyramid Fairy that could reward us.
Well, full clear of Ice Palace for Top Life, who I think could be considered to have a decent chunk of a lead. Really is a good boon for Ursula, provided that she ends up go-moding it later. Well, an unfortunate fall to the lobby of Tower of Hera, and a little bit of awkwardness trying to navigate back. We'll have to scroll a screen in a weird way. You don't get to see that very often. Because, yeah, for whatever reason, you can't hit the switch until it's loaded properly. But you mentioned Pyramid Fairy. Top Life seeming to head that way. So I think from what you foreshadowed earlier, the worst case scenario would be what, like mirror?
Yeah, they don't want to find the mirror. I mean, the worst case scenario is nothing, and then you have to continue on, and then mirrors up like on Ether Tablet for your progression. You can always build worse scenarios.
Whew, boy, Top Life almost falling to a Hinox there. Alrighty, and an option to refill a potion if we wish. Our Pyramid Fairy today. 50 rupees and 20 more to spare. Top Life actually taking a net loss of 30 rupees on that bomb. All in all, if this catfish isn't something important, this probably feels like a really nasty chain to have to go through, like a big time sink as a runner. Well, that'll be a tempered Moldorm for Ursula. Ursula taking no time waste, really just crushing the boss and moving on to bigger and brighter things.
Well, more money and more problems.
Replete with both, Top Life gonna save and quit out of there. This lack of mirror makes some of the overworld stuff pretty annoying to deal with.
Here's that Spiral Cave check. which I'm pretty sure we did not see out of Top Life, so this could be one of our items. If this is Bombos, it's extra hilarious because Ursula will be able to just do Turtle Rock. It's bombs, not...
Missing an O in that one. Well, not quite the very similarly spelled medallion coin that we're looking for, but Ursula will end up heading into the dark Death Mountain area. So we'll get the knowledge about Bombos being Turrock's medallion, at the very least. And so what does this leave us? Ether Tablet. We didn't check Zora, did we?
No, we haven't seen Zora yet. That one's kind of hilarious. Given that Top Life had the option to do it before Ice. And then, you know, back of Skull Woods, assuming we did see all of the items out of Thieves on Ursula's side.
We'll get some steps redoubled here. While we have a little bit of downtime while they're doing the same stuff as each other have been doing, this is a great time to remind you folks, if you're enjoying the race that you're watching, this is just the first race of the day, but also you should give these runners a follow on their personal Twitch channels. Great opportunity to see how they prepare for not just races like this week, but also the remaining 6 weeks. That's right, folks. We have 6 more weeks of main season linked to the past Randomizer League action, and then, of course, the playoffs to follow. So if this looks, you know, if you wanted to see more from both teams, there's plenty more ahead.
Yeah, and only a few more matches today in week 1, and then in week 2, it's moving to what are referred to as the Ambrosia settings, which is a standard open, but the uncle tells you where the boots are. And every boss is guaranteed to have a non-dungeon item, so they will not have a key, map, or compass. And it's a shirt sword.
Which is a very nice feeling. So that shirt sword, is that before the uncle, or is that actually at the uncle?
I believe it's before.
That makes sense. Just to provide a little bit of context as to these two teams, Top Life from Reheated Leftovers, this is, of course, the first race of the league for him, but their team has actually already won, so you're looking at the names at the top of the screen. That 3 represents 3 points earned for a team victory. 0 points, of course, because they had lost the other match. Feline Paralysis lost the other match to Reheated Leftovers earlier this week. If there is a tie of 2 seconds, both teams would earn 1 point. So that's basically how the team scoring works for this league. Something to keep an eye on as we start moving into further into the weeks.
So Top Life going to find out about these 2 pieces of heart, as I assume Spike is coming.
Ether's going to continue to be a very weird location to check.
Without the mirror, it's just really annoying to get back there. And the book was on Dark Death Mountain, so there wasn't like any way to avoid that.
Well, no heart refill off of that heart piece to be wasted. Top Life setting up for potentially some extra health later. Ursula gonna skip Zora.
Yeah, goes and looks on the ledge, but just heading out.
Perhaps as a sign that Ursula would rather check the item density of Ice Palace. I'm scratching my head, but I'm willing to bet there's a very specific reason that we might be able to ask about in the interview.
And Top Life did basically the same thing and is now going to check Zora, so we will finally see what it is.
I guess I would find this more confusing if Ursula doesn't follow this with Zora check.
Well, you can't leave Ice Palace to get back there, but yeah, you can do it, after everything else.
Yeah, I don't know if I like the decision that either of them made in that respect. Well, maybe Ursula ended up proving me wrong real quick.
The ultimate scam.
We take those, though. Ursula obviously didn't know, but I think on a level she sort of knew.
Enjoy your 0.2% return.
Alright, well, another check that we haven't had a chance to see yet. King's Tomb here for Top Life. Vanilla.
Yeah, have we seen a bumper ledge check? I don't know if we have. If we
I
have,
don't
I
believe
missed
so.
it.
So there's our invisibility, invincibility, whatever you prefer to call it. This isn't Doom, it isn't partial. But Top Life will likely immediately go take a look. And another first try bomb jump. So both runners pulling off their Ice Palace bomb jump very effectively. It's an easy thing to kind of stumble on, so happy to see that. Ooh, Top Life heading into the Skull Woods area. We might not see that bumper ledge for a minute. Alright, so that is Skull Woods here for Top Life. Getting some weird Samaria glitchiness with the walk animation. Not a big deal, just you're always like, hey, wait, did I just break something? Top Life going to actually recheck the map, and then looks to be heading towards the bumper cave.
Just really does not want to go Mothula today.
Which, I mean, I don't fault him. It doesn't feel like a good, thing to do. It just feels like, hey, I'm going to get burned again by the seed. Bumper Cave, good example. Not really giving us anything but 20 bucks. So maybe Top Life reconsidering. I'm going to head back towards Village of Outcasts, it looks like. Yes, we did not see a completion of Thieves Town. We only saw the front.
And
from
there's
Top
Smith
Life.
Chain stuff too. It's super obnoxious without mirror or flute, but
Well, this might be the time that Ursula needs to try and regain some of the advantage, as Top Life has had a nice chunk of time, advantage for most of this race. I'd say at least from about 20 minutes in, just from not having to, triple dip Eastern Palace early on. So this could be a chance for Ursula to get a little bit of ground back, but if Top Life finds anything along this check or this chain, that might be the final nail in the coffin.
yeah, nothing yet.
As you mentioned, the perilous Smith chain that stinks. Really annoying to do all of this, but Top Life will make the commitment to it.
At least you have boots for this. It's even worse if you're walking.
Yeah, I would not like the slow shuffle. Can you really call it a chain if you're consistently saving and quitting to get these things to where they need to go? That is very much a broken chain in my book.
I mean, you can call purple chest and Smith a chain because one leads into the other. You can't do purple chest without Smith.
Yeah, that's fair, but you can't
Oh!
get a flute without it either. Alright, so some chained music actually. Trying to find the right musical pun for it. I don't have it. But an hour and 18 minutes, 30 something seconds, Top Life activating the flute and getting us just that much closer towards finishing this race out. We are still looking for a Bombos and potentially a Meyer medallion.
Well, I mean, if we don't already have the Meyer medallion, then it is also a Bombos since we have the other two. So just Bombos needed.
Yeah, that is the succinct way to say it, probably. Bombos, and yeah, we'll have a little more information to gather, but Top Life probably feeling a little more comfortable having found that flute. As annoying as it was an annoying thing to check either way.
Well, he did not see if he can go into Meyer yet.
Of course, there is potential for that checkerboard cave to give us a lot of trouble later if that happens to, say, be a Bombos. We don't have a mirror yet to check it. This Quake will get us into Misery Mire and allows it to be fully completable.
Two more items in here. One of them could be Bombos. One of them could be the mirror to be really annoying.
Gotta love that feeling. You're almost home free. You're almost avoiding Swamp Palace entirely. And then Bombo strikes. I'm sorry, the mirror strikes. Well, let's hope for Top Life and Ursula's sake that doesn't become the situation. Although, all things considered, I'm not exactly sure where else we would find a mirror at this point. What else have we already did Zora. I guess maybe Green Pendant? Or Mothula? There's our Bombos.
Yep, that's... we'll call that a God Meyer because that is go mode.
So that is confirmed. We will not require the mirror at all in order to complete this seed. Whether or not we stumble across it is another story, though.
Yeah, it's probably in GT at this point. Or in Turtle Rock.
That would be the ideal scenario. I could imagine a situation where Ursula might finish Skullwoods. So we may end up finding it that way, but in all likelihood, I think I agree it's probably in GT. So we saw it just barely an hour and 21 minutes into the race. Top Life getting the big key in a somewhat friendly place. Definitely not the cutscene chest. So that'll be enough to head down to Vitreous, and we are very well equipped for that fight.
Yeah, and that's just going to be Turtle Rock and Ganon's Tower for Top Life.
In the grand scheme of things, Ursula really not that far behind. The lack of flute might be the big difference maker here right now, as otherwise Ursula would just be basically half a dungeon or about a full dungeon behind total.
Yeah, really going to need to find that Smith chain flute, which is hard to do without either the flute or mirror. It's really annoying to do those checks.
Nevertheless, Crystal to be had in both dungeons on screen right now. Ursula heading towards the Lamolus fight. Top Life getting a spooky action glitch. We'll have the opportunity to do one more, which you would almost certainly be trying to do in this room as opposed to the next one. Unfortunately, not enough magic to continue that, but it's not as big of a time save here anyway.
I mean, there's magic in that pot. Instead of flipping the switch by just throwing the pot, you could go do the spooky action glitch.
I find it kind of interesting not choosing to powder the anti-fairy there. I mean, there's plenty of health to work with, and silver is a super safe fight overall, but things can go south. Like that? Yikes, Top Life. Hey, it gets the zero cycle anyway.
Yeah, I was just waiting for it to be a one cycle at the last second.
I thought he was about to get zero cycled himself. Well, that's red mail for Top Life. Even more insurance against the remaining challenges of the dungeon. Or of the seed. Up the Turtle Rock, Top Life looking to close this out, and maybe a sub 140 at this clip would require a convenient Ganon's Tower layout, but Ursula not that far behind. One dungeon, but one very important progression. That important progression, of course, being the flute, which we found. Oh god, I'm drawing a blank. We just saw it in the Smith chain.
Smith.
There were some rocksmiths apparently playing a tune. Do you think that flute comes with a plastic guitar?
Yeah, it's a very simple rhythm game.
Could totally learn how to do the same thing they're doing. So a musical tune that would fly us to the south, down to Misery Mire. That's what Ursula really needs here, because Top Life entering the last remaining Crystal Dungeon has a commanding lead to work with, and has checked a lot of the world and given Ursula some opportunities to, maybe make some lucky decisions to, avoid some of those extra overworld checks. Ursula having second thoughts about that big bomb, or perhaps not remembering that it doesn't preserve through the save and quit. That could be actually a really great thing if she chooses to go somewhere else, but it looks like she's going to double back on it. Which I don't fault her at all. I mean, this is a very logical decision to make.
Yep. And we'll see just how much being in go mode can save Top Life here. Generally not all that much in Turtle Rock. We'll probably see the vanilla big key chest, and the big chest gets skipped if the big key is somewhere along the way.
Well, a slight miss on the torches with a hook shot, but we'll be able to get through doing the conventional speedrun strat overall. We're checking these two chests over here, and with a small key, it looks like Top Life would have been required to do this side regardless. Would not have been able to potentially skip that room in some Galaxy Brain move. Alright, with Pyramid Fairy complete, Ursula going to save and quit off of the pyramid. Has some decisions to make. Nothing on her plate really looks appealing. Probably going to try and throw everything in the garbage disposal, I would think, as far as routes go. And this may actually be the Smith chain. I think this looks like Ursula heading that direction. Or I'm wrong.
Yeah, it might be Sora, maybe. I'm not totally sure. Or no, Kingstone. That makes sense.
Yeah, so that'll be a magic cape, which will likely put Ursula in the Dark World. I don't think she checked Bumper Cave earlier. So that might be a reason to do Smith Chain. I mean, and we're really hoping for that because that's the best thing that'll keep this race closer.
Yeah, absolutely. And Top Life just making the way through Total Rock. Gets egged.
That's a great bunny spray. You could say he got caught with egg in his face. Top Life gonna grab that big key and return back around the loop. In the Mario themed dungeon, no less. It's quite appropriate. If only the Yoshi was a little bit pinker in shade, we could maybe like try and pass this off as a discount Birdo. Well, making great work of those Hokuboku, a room that I think many people have a lot of issues with. Oh boy, Ursula doing the thing. Just under 90 minutes in, we'll get the flute, and we'll very shortly thereafter have go mode.
Yeah, it just has to actually, do Meyer without it, and we'll be totally fine. I would very much expect that. Gonna do the hammer pegs first.
Yeah, maybe a slightly different math equation in a runner's head if they don't have the boots first, to do that very quickly. But when you have the means to do so right in front of the house, it's just the best way to go. Oh no! Oh, okay, I forgot. That Smith can't be turned in from the Dark World. Okay, that looked really bad to me.
Do that. I was like, what?
Panic moment. Okay, Ursula's fine. She's doing the right thing. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. Maybe that Mercer guy, he's pretty cool.
And it gets the small key in the first chest on Laser Bridge, defying all randomizer tradition.
Yeah, well, for all we know, I'm sure it's like mirror back there, and you end up making a choice that's like slightly painful because having to walk back up GT or something like that. We may never find out what's on the remainder of that bridge. Down to Trinex. So Top Life, you're getting ready for Ganon's Tower. Nice. Mercer, I hear people like to do stuff on the way into the dungeon.
That sounds ominous. Do they?
Well, I mean, there's like a number of things that we could check here in GT. 22 locations, actually, and when you see that command in chat, folks, I'd like to see what you think it's going to be today for the Ganon's Tower Big Key location. So between 1 and 22, throw your numbers into chat. The bot might be broken, so this might be just for posterity. So since it's probably broken, not going to put too much thought into it. It's going to be number 22, in my opinion.
I'll go number 2, half that. Yeah, I'm just guessing by the error 500 that the bot returned that probably means it's not working.
Well, we may have borked the thing, but still we enjoy playing this for fun. Top Life about to enter the dungeon, and if nothing else changes, has a very commanding lead to finish this up, to likely take a second win for their team for the week. In the meantime, Ursula entering into Meyer, a very straightforward Meyer. Pretty much just going to have to do a couple quick loops, but We'll not have any doubts as to whether or not this is the completion chain, and we'll absolutely find that bump list quickly.
Double small key in Hope Room.
If our runners wanted a 16th heart, it's on the torch, 3 things down. Still plenty of GT left to go, potentially. I find it kind of interesting with those 2 keys on the right that we didn't continue right. Top Life perhaps preferring this route more so than reading the keys.
Hey, there's the mirror.
Wow, that could not have been placed any better in this scenario.
And Ursula enters go mode.
Yeah, so not a very big spread between the two of them for their go modes, all things considered. Meyer for as quick as it can be, and Turtle Rock for as straightforward as it will be. I'm kind of impressed with how close this has managed to stay in the grand scheme of things. Top Life had quite a few advantages throughout the race that could have turned this into quite a blowout. There it is.
Yeah, that's what, number 9, I think?
Regardless of officiality, yes, that is our big key somewhere in the lower numbers. Top Life going to climb the tower now. And given the key layout, that doesn't leave Ursula with a lot of room to save time, but a full left start could potentially be a little quicker. While BMOs have a different plan for Top Life today, down to 4 hearts, even with Red Mail, that is kind of scary territory.
Yeah, might see the safety room here, just to refill.
And opts to be a Mad Lad, skipping it entirely. So that's 3 hearts that Top Life feels comfortable with enough, at least. Oh, well, never mind. 3 more
There's
hearts.
3 more hearts. Doesn't even bother with one of them.
Skips the small heart. I said Mad Lad, but Insane Man. Perhaps a little more appropriate. Just getting every single heart piece or heart drop that you could ever hope for.
It does have the powder to get a refill at the end of this before land mode 2 if Top Life wants it.
It
does also have a fairy in the bottle.
Oh, that's right. That was one of the actual bottle drops. Good point. Well, despite a little bit of sword flailing to have some issues with some Stalfos, this is a pretty standard gauntlet. Top Life not really having any major disruptions to this progression through here. And 2 for 2 on 1 cycle Lamolus today.
Yeah, and some nice rooms in the end of the gauntlet there.
Looks like both of our runners pulling off 0 cycle Vitreous kills today with their silver arrows. Really nice to see, because even if you miss an arrow, that can be kind of hard to pull off. So that will be all but Turtle Rock for Ursula. It looks like it won't be enough for catching up to Top Life, though, who is currently near the top of the tower. However, we'll likely be deep in Turtle Rock, or maybe even a little further when we see the dot done, depending on how Top Life's fight goes. Top Life in a well, both of them really in a great position for their final boss fights. Even Tempered really isn't that bad for Ursula. Um, with the silver arrows, it's still a pretty convenient fight, and with all the safeties, it's nice to have red mail for Ganon. So Top Life with a full health refill and magic should be in a good position, gold silvers, to finish this up.
Yeah, we'll see how this Aga 2 goes, though. I feel like it might take Top Life out.
You're saying he won't be living the top life here at the top of the tower. Will be topped off by sending him back to the bottom. That's life sometimes, you know.
Is it?
Look, I'm not saying I have good jokes for you. I'm just working off of some reheated leftovers.
Suppose that's fair. So 1 and then 0. Nice double there. Oh, that's a nice lineup. That's a nice lineup.
Glorious. And the nice thing about that too, and I think the understated aspect of that particular lineup is that, Aghanim wasn't just staying in one spot. You had to have all three of them follow his knockback. So for him to pull off that triple was actually really phenomenal, despite it looking friendly. With a spin, no less. And here comes the Ganon fight for top life. The last thing standing between him and 3 points for the reheated leftovers. 6 slashes per phase in the first 2 cycles, 3 in the third cycle, and then simply 4 arrows in phase 4. This is the fastest version of the Ganon fight, although it is pretty comparable to Tempered Silvers if you can 1+1 cycle. Down into phase 3, just waiting on the warps. Got to see a pretty interesting bonk there from Ursula to avoid that roller. That was pretty nifty.
And Top Life just a little high on the silver era there, but looks set up for a double here.
Which, all things considered, it is a little easier, as you mentioned, to get multiple shots when Ganon's in the center of the room. Something that a lot of people don't realize about Ganon when it comes to silvers is that he will actually be untargetable. You can't hit him if he touches the edges of the pit. So you do want him in the center of the room when you do this strat.
Top Life now out of magic, although I believe has a blue potion if he doesn't finish it. Does finish it anyway, though.
That'll be enough for Top Life to finish with an official SRL time of 1 hour, 41 minutes, and 30 seconds in first place. Get your GGs in chat, folks.
I guess Ganon wanted it done at 1 hour 39.
Sometimes you just can't have it. But it looks like Top Life joining us now in the for the interview will have it. GG, congratulations on your win.
Thank you.
So Top Life, this brings your team to 2-0 in your division for races this week. Puts you at the top of the heap, it looks like.
Yeah, it's going nice so far. Yeah, but if we put up the Days Cloud as a runner, we just expect to win. So it's more like up to me.
So something that I think most of us were kind of wondering about, there was a fair amount of juking of Zora, and then you ended up actually finding it, but run us through what's going on in your mind for that decision chain. Like, there must have been a very particular reason you were looking to do Zora when you did, or holding off for as long as you did.
It's just going down to statistics, to be honest. I'm trying to be as trying to clear down the average statistically finish time as possible. And yeah, if I run up to Sora, I need to run all the way down to Ice Palace again. So I'm not really sure that you lose that much time. You lose a little bit time to not checking it at once, but you either way had to clear Ice Palace. So I wanted to do that first. Of course, you could have maybe skipped out Waterfall Fairy Cave, but yeah, it's too quick check, so. I was running out of options, and neither of my options were particularly great. Sora was 2 checks, relatively quick, so that's why I did it then.
Well, so looks like we'll have a little bit of time to kind of ask about it, but can you walk us through kind of like, how the seed, progressed for you? Obviously, we had the Aghanim thing that happened for both of you, but take us a little bit through your thought process throughout this race.
Well, it kind of developed like a typical me seed. Like I skip a lot of stuff, and then it's just about how early can I find whatever I skipped on the way. This time it was in the end on the Smith chain, which probably would have been somewhat lost locations anyway, so when I found it on Smith I wasn't necessarily that worried, because I had done some other stuff which I felt was pretty effective, so just hope that Ursula didn't check Smith as soon as possible.
Yeah, I think that pretty well worked out for you. Then I think the only other question I had about it is if you had thought of finishing Skullwoods doing the green pendant earlier, which never ended up happening for either of you.
Yeah, like when I came back the second time, I wasn't actually sure which was the green pendant, but either way, I thought the check was so slow. Well, I only had slow checks, but it was kind of one of the most even slower than all the others. It was the same with Thieves Down. Like I was really sure that I was going to run in, and then I started to think about, it's only one item down there. I wasn't even sure, but I thought it was only one item. So that made me go for Smiths before. Yeah, it was a little bit messy in the end there, but yeah. That's how it goes when you don't have any really good checks left, I guess.
And I really think that's kind of the story of this race, is just everything that you could check was pretty inconvenient to do so. Speaking of which, did you have any worries in the back of your mind about Ether Tablet? That was a very inconvenient location that could have been on the table.
Not really. You had to go into the Dark World to get a book. So either way, it was pretty inconvenient for either of us. Because as the seed progressed, I was pretty sure that the mirror had to be in Gans Tower. So yeah, I thought that would be a very odd check. Especially if Ursula checked Spiral Cave. I know I skipped it, so it was a little bit more tempting for me than probably most other runners in that spot.
Yeah, Ursula did check Spiral Cave. It was just 3 bombs.
Yeah, so Ursula has a way worse position than me to check it, and that was kind of what I expected to, so Ether Tablet didn't really worry me that much.
Well, so this, as you mentioned before, puts your team up, pretty much to the top of the conference or the division. But you do have 6 more weeks of regular season ahead of you. Top Life, are there any weeks? I mean, I don't want you to divulge too much about your strategy if you don't feel comfortable doing so, but are there any weeks you're particularly looking out for up ahead for yourself?
I haven't really thought much about it. Like I we have our plans scheduled for week 2 and week 3. And I haven't really thought more about the others, so I guess I should start practicing for some of those modes and figure out what I'm supposed to run. But yeah.
I was gonna say, yeah, you may have got your next couple weeks sorted out, but the big thing I wanted to ask about, and this is, I mean, I probably shouldn't be asking so many people for my own personal advantages reason, but have you done a spoiler pilot yet?
No comments.
Yikes! It is a journey, is an experience. Personal recommendation: do at least one with your partner in advance, because that might be one of the craziest weeks we see in this league. And of course, folks out there, if you haven't followed the schedule, to see what's coming up, take a look at ALTTPRleague.com to get a sense of just how much craziness we have in front of us. This is just the first week, and certainly all downhill from here in the best way possible. Speaking of the following weeks, you have new opponents for next week. Have you scouted them out at all?
No, because I'm not the one who's running next week. So, and the week after, it's the team from the Nordic community, and since I've been running quite a lot in the Nordic community, I know them pretty well.
And Ursula just about to pick up the Gans Tower big key here. As Top Life's collection rate comes on screen. 148, not too bad given the journey to find the flute in particular.
Well, I think this is a very strong performance today, Top Life. I think that's probably all the questions the two of us probably have for you, but any remaining thoughts you'd like to share about the seed itself?
Nah, I think I will come through most of it.
Well, we're certainly looking forward to seeing the rest of the league out of you. Of course, for those of you who haven't been following the actual rule set for this, all races are required to do at least 4 races each, including potential co-op races. So while there may be 7 weeks and 3 people on each team, the math does bear out, I promise. So you're going to see at least 3 more out of Top Life here. But if you want to stay posted on when Top Life is racing this or any other formats, best way to do so, show these guys some love and follow them on Twitch. You can keep up to date with all of your favorite runners. Right after you see them on a restream, just hit that !R command, and you can always figure out who's running. Great way to learn a little bit more about the community and the members of it. So with that, Top Life, I think that's everything I've got for you. We're going to switch back over to commentating Ursula's GT climb, but GG, and congratulations on your week 1 win.
Yeah, GG, thanks for commentating and everything.
You are welcome to stick around with us if you'd like to chat with Ursula in a few minutes. Just wanted to kind of give you a sense of where we're going with this on the broadcast.
Yeah, I guess I can stay out of time.
All things considered, though, Ursula having a pretty fast GT. This gauntlet climb looking pretty good, except for the room that we're looking at right now. But going into Gauntlet 5, plenty of health to work with, all the best equipment in the world, something that we can definitely speak to for this entire race. Lots of equipment overall. We were forced into everything but that mirror until late.
Yep, and heading straight into the Land Mode 2 fight with silver arrows to speed it along.
Combination of the arrows and, of course, very still powerful tempered sword. Heading further up to the top of the tower, the gauntlet being vanquished. Ursula just has some Samaria, some torches, and a Moldorm to kill before we'll get back to that geometry puzzle. Is it a geometry wizard or a trigonometry wizard?
Let's just call it geometry. I don't feel like I want to co-sign on calling it trigonometry.
The angles, Mason. What do they mean? The numbers, whatever. You had the better pun there. I'll concede on that one. I'm working off of some reheated leftovers in the grand scheme of things. I've tried that pun too many times, but Ursula not being paralyzed by this seed, clawing her way up to the top of the tower now.
He gives a hesitation there, probably to let the door timer run out rather than risk a despawn of Ganon's tower, which is something that no runner ever does twice.
Yeah, maybe the worst feeling in all of A Link to the Past, honestly, if it does happen. So, yeah, caution here, probably wise. All things considered, I'm pretty impressed that this is going to be a sub 2. Considering how many loop-de-loops we've had to do in this, this is a seed that's very easy to end up spending more time on. Some potential pitfalls. If it weren't for Mir and GT, I would expect this to be a much longer seed.
Well, but Moldorm decides to play a cruel game and just bullies Ursula off the ledge.
Smart menu switch to get the hook shot out in advance of the final slash from Moldorm here. For those who aren't familiar, you actually cannot change items while a boss is exploding. For whatever reason, the coders for this game said, we got all the laggy things going on right now. We really don't need a menu open during this. Or they just think you don't want to be like a cool guy and, look at explosions. They want to make sure you have to.
Yeah, that can actually be kind of lethal on Trinex in particular, since that counts for each head exploding, and if you need a health potion while the main head pokes at you or something, it can end up killing you.
Well, we get to see Ursula's take on the Aghanim 2 fight. Kind of an awkward setup to have to deal with here, but still manages to get one of the reflectable shots, which, given that configuration in the last cycle, was pretty difficult to do. We get that Magic 3 lineup again, which Ursula will take with a different angle and nearly gets the same triple, which another impressive way to handle that, and actually an amazing setup after that. We didn't get to see that one before, but that's awesome. That's probably one of the friendlier fights I've seen in a while for that. Maybe not the first couple cycles, but Aghanim did give mercy to us eventually.
Yeah, no. Ursula, out of magic at the moment, I believe does have a blue potion, but will just have the single bar from that. I don't think I've ever actually seen all three of the clones directly on top of each other like that.
I've seen it personally, but
Ursula had used the purple at some point, or blue. Gonna have to go get a magic refill somewhere.
Is it a green potion? I don't know if we actually checked the waterfall.
We did not see what this is. It is a B.
Well, it might be a good B, but it's certainly not to be what we wanted. Ursula will take the time to go get a magic refill. Forced to, really. There's no alternative.
Yeah, there's not really a choice. You cannot do the Ganon fight without magic. You can just flute. Oh, no, or just get a drop there. That works.
It's amazing.
I was going to say, can flute over to the magic shop and deal with it that way, but that works.
Shout out to Ursula for X-ray vision, seeing the full magic decanter in that guard's armor. Simply phenomenal. You gotta love it.
Probably not going to use that cape too much. It just has that single bar.
Yeah, with with health refills to work with one and a fairy, certainly a comfortable position to be in for the fight. Not a problem to take extra phases early on to avoid, any kind of danger. Having the cape out, I think, just to make sure that this phase of the fight is quick.
Yeah, it's fine. Just means lamp for phase 4, and it should be okay.
Yeah, being that it's silvers, that's way less of a concern. Looking like a pretty standard Ganon fight so far. Ursula putting on a good display. Moving into the fourth phase here. Or at least that's what I would say if I saw what happened at the end of the third phase. There we go. I think we're starting to get it back here. Switch.
Well,
We'll find out here in a moment whether or not that is a stream side thing or if that is potentially just like a discarded delay scenario. As of course, for those of you who don't race frequently, there is a 10-minute delay on restream matches, or not restream matches, just matches in general in the Link to the Past Randomizer League. We'll find that out here in a moment. Alright, we may or may not be able to actually catch the rest of this Ganon fight, but we do have word that there was an official .done on SRL from Ursula, with official SRL time of 2 hours, 2 minutes, and 11 seconds, so we may have actually run out of magic in this fight. Potentially? I don't know, unless it was like a really careful phase 4. I'm assuming that was what happened. And it doesn't appear that we'll have an interview, but I do want to extend a GG to Ursula, who really good job of putting on a great show for us here today.
yeah, absolutely. And we do have another race coming up after this on the channel here. But before we sign off, I want to give a shout out to my co-commentator here, I'm Mystic. I think I pronounced that correctly.
More than fun enough.
As well as our tracker, Mystic, and to SpeedGaming in general, SpeedGaming, and then SpeedGaming 2 through 6, as well as the league channels for this league, which is ALTTPR League, and then 1 through 4, I believe.
And there's actually a "the" or "the" before it, too. There's been some confusion with our scheduling page, because that changed recently with which channels they're on, so pay close mind to the actual Twitch URL of that page. It's just been kind of a confusing point for all of us. But yeah, so those 4 channels, the Speed Gaming Network. If you're looking for more races today, we will actually have one in progress on Speed Gaming 2 right now, it looks like, between A Link to the West Coast, represented by Magic Lamp Oil, or no, Zaydnix, I'm sorry, represented by Zaydnix, and then Magic Lamp Oil represented through Kinup. We also have at 2:10 p.m. Eastern Time, Old Swagga Jackson, represented by Marknificent, and the Cool Rush Gamers, represented by Cool Papa Bell 2282 on SG3. So lots of great racing action for you ahead. You can, of course, stay tuned to this channel. It looks like we'll actually have a Super Mario All-Stars race at the top of the hour, so if you're into some Mario as well, certainly lots of fun to be had. And you can just park your keister where you're currently at. So one of the two, whichever you prefer. That should be starting, it looks like, in the next 5 or 6 minutes or so. So don't change the channel, or do, whichever it is, make sure it's one of these channels. And that's all I've got. So Mercer, thank you for joining me on the co-commentary, like you said. And then, of course, to our runners for putting on a great show for us today. I've been Uday Monistic. Go ahead and take us out, Mercer.
Whatever time it might actually be, everybody have a good day.